Hi, and welcome to Creatively Claire. For this video, I'm actually not going to be doing any hand lettering. Surprise, surprise. I'm going to be sharing with you some of my favorite books. This video will be fiction, and maybe I'll make another video in the future for nonfiction. I'm definitely a major bookworm, so I have a lot of favorites. Let's get started. So I'm going to organize my favorite books by genre, and I'm going to start with fantasy. It's definitely one of my favorites. So, on the top of the stack, I have a couple books by Edith Nesbit. And she lived in the 1800s and in England, and she just wrote some fun stories about kids, and I just really enjoy her perspective on childhood and all the adventures the children go on. They're very entertaining, all the scrapes they get into, so especially the story of the treasure seekers. And I like a lot of her other books too, but I read them as ebooks, and so unfortunately I can't really pull up ebooks and scroll through them, but just look her up and I highly recommend. Next we have the Wingfeather Saga by Andrew Peterson. So he is a Christian singer and songwriter, and he wrote these books for kids, and they are very creative and entertaining, but they also have a more deep side to them. Just the storyline and the characters are very rich and meaningful, and I really appreciate that they are written from a Christian perspective. Definitely one of my favorite fantasy series. And of course, I cannot fail to mention Lord of the Rings. I actually just reread them. I actually reread them as ebooks though, because these copies are kind of falling apart and I'm kind of scared to read them, but just the complexity of Middle-earth just amazes me every time I read them. And the characters are just so real. So, highly recommend that as well. And that's all I have for the fantasy genre. So, I just realized I have a lot of favorite books, and this could be a long video. But now we come to my favorite classic works. I'm not going to go into detail on each one just because they're more well known, but I'll just kind of say why I like each one. So, for Jane Austen, some of my favorite of hers are Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility, and Emma. I just really enjoy her wit and humor in each one. And then I love Sherlock Holmes. I pretty much love all mysteries, but Sherlock Holmes is my favorite. And then A Tale of Two Cities is one of the best Dickens in my opinion, but maybe just because it has a little bit more of an interesting plot and it's a little more exciting maybe than some of his other works. I don't know, I just kind of get lost in some of his books. But I also like A Christmas Carol. And then Jane Eyre, just another one of my favorites. And then To Kill a Mockingbird. I actually had not read this book until a couple of years ago, and I wasn't quite sure what to expect. But I really ended up loving it, and all the characters just came to life, and I just really enjoyed this book. So, now we come to one of my favorite book series of all time, Anne of Green Gables. I guess this series would be considered classic, I don't know. But I just really love this series. I have ever since I was 11 or 12, and Anne just has always intrigued me and always captured my imagination. So, and that brings me to an end of all of the classic books that I own and love. So this genre I would call Christian historical fiction. Pilgrim's Progress really doesn't fit into that category, but I'm including it just for convenience. So this book is Stepping Heavenward by Elizabeth Prentiss. It was written in the 1800s. It is a fictional diary of a young woman in her journey as a Christian. sometimes you forget it's actually fictional because Elizabeth Prentiss does such a good job of bringing this girl to life, and all of her experiences are so relatable, and the lessons she learns are very applicable to our lives. Highly recommend. And this series is probably my absolute favorite series of books. I know I kind of said that about Anne of Green Gables, but this would probably trump Anne of Green Gables just because it is about real women, godly women who influenced the world around them and the struggles and hardships they had to go through. And out of this series, my favorite is probably Against the Tide. It is about a Scottish Covenanter named Margaret Wilson in 17th century Scotland and the struggles she went through because of her faith, and she eventually was martyred. So these books aren't necessarily biographies, they have an element of fiction to them, but they are about real people, and they do draw their core story from real life. So I really, really love these books. And now we have Coronation of Glory. It is a biography kind of along the same lines as the Chosen Daughters series. It is about Lady Jane Grey, who was a queen for a very short time in England, and she was eventually martyred or murdered by Bloody Mary in 1554. And this is a very down-to-earth biography of her life, and it's very inspiring as well. And last but not least is Pilgrim's Progress. It is just an amazing work and very, very applicable to the Christian life, and I think I could reread it I don't know how many times every year and never grow tired of it. So definitely an essential book to read as a Christian. Well, I hope you have a few new books to add to your to-read list now. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe. Also, I would love for you to give me suggestions for future videos. Please put that in the comments below. Thanks for watching.